Hey, we're at Lodestar Gardens right now in the High Tunnel, and we'd like to share some ideas about gardening here at Lodestar. We happen to be at about 7,000 feet, 6,900 some feet in the rural part of Arizona, north central Arizona, and we have some very interesting challenges to our growing season. We have been growing since 2000 and marketing to retailers and farmers markets and so forth. So we've learned a few things, a lot of trial and error. For those of you who just started out, it's pretty daunting, and the climate change and other things that are happening are challenging us even further. But we have a few things we can share, and we want you to stay the course and keep gardening. I'm here with my husband Clark, and in the middle is our good friend Paula, and we are going to share our experience right now. Yeah. One of the things that we in the rural part of Arizona, which has been experiencing a drought, we have been dealing with since we've been growing, has been water and the lack thereof. We have wells and we irrigate constantly, or there would be no food. So one of the things that we had to experiment with was, how does that water come to us? And Clark has a story, I guess we'd call it a story, about what happened here at Lodestar managing a water source.
Our water source are two wells. Both are pumped with solar. We're off-grid, everything is solar. And when you're pumping with solar, you need to have storage. So we have one 5,000 gallon tank that we use on a gravity feed system. We also have a pond that we built that holds about 90,000 gallons. And we irrigate out of that, and with the fish we have, the ducks we have, and the algae in the pond, we are also able to fertilize every time we irrigate. The pumps are all solar. With a small RV pump, we can move enough water out of the pond to either run one sprinkler or one zone of a drip irrigation system. We also have a larger irrigation pump that is also direct drive on solar, that we can irrigate a small field about 3/4 of an acre up on the hill. And if you're working in an urban area, it's a good thing to still have water storage, because you're going to have chlorine in the water. So it's a really good idea to let your water sit for at least 24 hours to let the chlorine evaporate out. We don't have that issue, but it's good to know. I think that's what I have at the moment, till we can expand.
Okay, so some of the key issues in homesteading, of course, is shelter, water, food, managing your resources. And we just talked about one aspect, and that would be the water. Another one is the soil and growing our food. And Paula has been experimenting as well. She's a newcomer to this area, but has been gardening in New England, as well as the southwest of Texas, and she finds herself a little over a year now adapting.
Yeah, you have to adapt to wherever you are. I've gardened from the Canadian to the Mexican borders, and here we have very violent wind because of our elevation, and we have lack of water due to drought. So I manage those by doing what's called waffle gardening. It's an old method used by the Zunis on the Pueblo in New Mexico. And what you're doing is you're digging trenches, and when you're done, those trenches will look like a waffle. You have the dips where your plants go and the ridges where you walk. And so I made these trenches, I made this waffle garden, and I can recess and put my seedlings down in the lower part of the waffle, and that protects them from the wind. And then when I want to water, I don't have a well, so I use rain catchment and I haul in water. I bring the water by truck to the garden and just use a hose to flood each individual section of the waffle. And that has increased the survival of my seedlings. And then when they would come up, they're toughened enough that the wind doesn't bother them. And if I feel like there's an issue with wind or frost, I can always put one of these bales over them and put some agribond or some plastic or something over them to give them a little bit of shelter. And that's increased my survival rate markedly.
And did you call it Zuni gardening?
Well, the waffle method is credited to the Zunis that were forced onto a pueblo in New Mexico, and they had to come up with a way to garden under super harsh conditions. So I've taken that and fitted it, and this is what you do when you homestead. You take ideas and you modify them to fit your particular circumstances. And mine is altitude, wind, lack of water. So I took their method and modified it for my needs.
We are all clear that there are no best practices, even though we've mentioned urban, rural, drought. There's no best practices for any one area, and getting to know your resources, getting to have a relationship with the land and with its peculiarities and its gifts and its challenges applies to everybody. But I'll tell you what, one thing is universal in agriculture that I've seen, especially with, I'm talking to small farmers and gardeners, backyard gardeners and front yard gardeners. And that is, it's easier to do it when you work with somebody, when some form of collaboration takes place. Labor is one of the challenges of gardening. You can put a seed in the ground and you can learn how to water it and to cultivate it and to prepare it for consumption. But if you're doing a lot of food growing or even an extensive amount in your front or backyard, you need some help. It's easier, we'll say, to have help, not only with the labor, but with the resources like equipment. And what we have learned at Lodestar over the last 21 years is that collaboration is essential if you're going to produce enough surplus to take to market, to share with your community, and it's fun. It's fun. So we're all about helping people set up food villages or collaborations, whether that's your neighbor next door or somebody in the next acre down the road. And what we have learned is that it's easier and more productive, more efficient, more fun. We're sitting in a high tunnel. It's 72 by 35 feet, and it's in a large area, growing area. And we constructed this with the help of 5 other families over the course of a year. And Clark and I needed the extra hands to put up this particular structure because we all wanted to eat year-round, fresh, local. We wanted to be in control of our nutrients, and we wanted to continue to eat, not just from farmers markets and when they closed in September in this area, but to eat year-round and benefit from the fresh foods that we were growing and consuming.
This is the middle of February, and look at this. This is amazing. And we don't grow just to have fresh, but we also grow to put in storage. In event that something happens and you don't have fresh, you have stuff in storage. But this is the middle of February.
We are anxious for people to grow more, to have more success and joy in growing. So we will continue to make these little videos for your use on different topics. We will say that part of our commitment in education is to start the homesteading school. It's called the Homesteading Apprenticeship Program. It starts this March. The 21st is the first day of class, the beginning of spring. And it's a year-round residential program for people who really, really are committed to understanding all facets of homesteading. So if you're interested in that, you can check the number below, or just go to lodestargardens.com where there is more explanation there. And with that, please let us know what you think, what you have questions about. For our particular area, we can share our experience. No best practices, but there are some tips that we've learned along the way and some great people that we've had the pleasure of working with. We want to thank the WOLF program, Worldwide Organization on Organic Farms, for all of their contributions, and the farm managers that have helped us to date, and the volunteers that have come from the community. This is a farm that was constructed with Clark and my blood, sweat, and tears, but with a whole lot of help from the collective, and we thank you.
Thank you.